Hey, future managers. All right, we're moving right along to modern management. That is the era of management that we are living in now. And I'm actually going to call that the era of empathy. Why? Because businesses for the first time are recognizing that they need to take care of their employees, and they also need to take care of their customers, because customer loyalty is a big deal, and so is having, it's a big deal to keep your customer, because there's such an era of competition going on right now. But let me back up and share with you the three main theorists that are bringing us into the theory of modern management. We left off in the 50s with Chris Argyris, and he was talking about, workers treated as adults are going to be more productive. So in your notes on your third column, make sure you write down modern management, era of empathy. All right, so we left off in the 50s, so we're going to talk about Fiedler first and his concept of contingency thinking. Then we're going to move on and, stop. Hey, future managers, welcome back to part 3. We're going to talk about the last era of management, modern management. So if you think back to our first two, we talked about scientific management and Frederick Taylor, and how people were all being treated like robots in the beginning after the Industrial Revolution. Then we moved on to talking about behavioral management, where we started to focus less on efficiency and more on expertise, on what people knew, and treating them like human beings of the job. And now we're moving into modern management, which I'm going to call the era of empathy. For the very first time, we're starting to value our employees and want to keep them around. We're recognizing that it's really expensive when we turn over employees constantly. It can be a big expense for a company, and that we lose all the knowledge that they know when they go away. And then also we're recognizing that there's more competition now than there ever was before. And having a customer that's loyal to us and loyal to our brand and our company is worth a lot of money. So we need to not treat customers like disposable or something to be taken advantage of, but really think about what we can do to help our customer out. So there's 3 main theorists that I wanted to go over with you guys to wrap us up today. And that's going to help bring us into where we're currently at with modern management and management thinking. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Fiedler. So we'll learn a little bit more about Fiedler in a later chapter when we start talking about leadership. But when you think about Fiedler, I want you to think about hippies. Yes, believe it or not, when I think about Fiedler, I think about hippies. So make sure you guys write Fiedler down. So Fiedler was really popular back in the 1960s, 1970s. The 1960s, 1970s, it was the, era of just, hey, anything goes, man. Yeah, man. And that's basically what he started saying with management. It was like, is there one right way to manage? And he basically say, no, there is no one best way. It all depends. Same as what I told you, what was kind of emerging with Douglas McGregor. He basically said, listen, there's no one best way to lead a company or to make decisions at all. There's way too many variables that are going to impact the way that we lead. So it all kind of depends on what's going on inside the organization and what's going on outside the organization, all right? And so the best way to manage isn't necessarily going to be Taylor's way or Follett's way. It really depends on the situation. So it depends. No one best way. That's Fiedler. So here's a quick example, real life example for you guys. All right. Facebook versus Zappos. You guys know who this is, right? All right. So if you go to work at Facebook, for example, here's what they do. If you know something and it's valuable to Facebook, they're going to bring you in to work for the company. They're going to extract all the information that you know, and then they are going to send you on your way into the world. They don't necessarily care about you sticking around at Facebook and spending your career there, growing your career, investing in their employees. They bring people in there that already know something, and they want to know what they know. They take it from them, and then they send them off into the world. That's the way that Facebook has historically operated when it comes to trying to get new employees. On the other hand is Tony, and I can never say his name right. Somebody, if you know it, send me an email. Heish. But Tony's the CEO of Zappos. I don't know if you guys have bought from Zappos. They have shoes, handbags, luggage, but it's a really well-run company. But what Tony would do is he would hire somebody based upon not only what they know, but on their potential. And he said, hey, when you come into the organization, and we want you to stick around for a long time. We want to invest in you. We want to grow you. We want to teach you everything that we know to help you grow and want to stay and spend your career at the company. 2 completely different ways to manage. And you know what? Neither one of them are wrong. It all depends. They're both in different markets. They both have different internal and external circumstances. They have different mission, vision, and values. And their way they treat their employees varies based upon where their business is going. So that's a quick example for you guys, putting Fiedler into motion. All right, so let's keep rocking and rolling, guys. So that was the 60s, 70s time frame. Now, let's move into talking about Deming. Deming was a funny guy. I've watched some of his old videos, and if we had all the time in the world, I would make you guys watch them too. But I'm not. You guys have 3 videos to watch, and I hope you guys find those interesting, enjoy those. But what was going on? We were in this era of mass production because we're producing so much. We weren't really paying too much about what kind of quality we were producing, and customers started getting junk, all right? And the quality of products in the U.S. was going down. And so, you know, U.S. products were starting to be considered low quality. Well, Deming went and actually started working with Toyota in Japan, and they really wanted to make a quality product, all right? So Deming began to work with Toyota to really come in with a quality being and Toyota is known for being the most long-lasting vehicle. It was for a long time, and they started to come out with quality electronics and quality automotives, and they really gave the U.S. a run for their money, all right, because it was getting expensive to make things in the U.S. and the quality was taking a hit because there wasn't a lot of focus on quality. It was all about how do we get this out and sell it to the customer, and customers were kind of getting taken advantage of at this point. They were, you know, buying things that would last, you know, 6 months or a year and then break. They could throw it away and buy a new one, you know. And Deming said, hey, we need to change that. And so we started looking at this whole concept of quality improvement. Basically, when we make a product, we're not done making it. We should always be looking for ways to continuously improve the process. And the Japanese are really the ones who really harnessed this and made it kind of an art and a science, if you will. And that's with the help of Edward Deming. And so basically, he came with this continued improvement cycle. Basically, he's always saying you should always look for opportunities to improve in the process. You're never really done. There's always something you need to improve, something you do better when you're manufacturing a product or when you're going through any sort of process. Always look for ways you can improve it the next time you go through that process. And then you plan how is it going to be improved. You make those planned improvements, and then you always come back around. You always say, how did we do? Did it improve, you know, as much as we wanted to or not? You know, we always had some parts at GE that we would always do this. We called it a lean action workout, a continuous improvement process. You know, we always try to find things that maybe we were spending too much time on, or maybe things that would always break. And there's got to be something that we're doing or something in the design that's causing this to break. And we do these action workouts. And we're literally following this continuous improvement cycle for things that were already in production, but we're just trying to help production run more smoothly. So that's all thanks to Deming in the 1980s. All right? So in the 1980s and 1990s is also when we started to worry about globalization. So we started to send things to China to be made as well, or send things, you know, started to outsource them. At GE, for example, there used to be, I think, 40,000 employees at the site that I worked at, and they ended up outsourcing a lot of it to Mexico and to different suppliers off-site. And there, I think there was more 3,500, 4,000 there by the time that I worked there, you know, in the early 2000s. So a lot started changing in modern management. And so we started to recognize, you know what, we really need to start taking care of our customers and our employees, because, you know, when we're sending everybody to Mexico, we're losing all that knowledge base of the people that we had trained here. And then we're also might be having a quality shift as well. So that all started to kind of happen in the 80s and 90s time frame. So last I want to share with you is Peter Drucker. You know, I'm a Peter Drucker fan too. It's hard for me to choose a theorist, but I would choose Peter Drucker as my favorite. So he basically came up with, guys, he started to recognize, you know, if we think back about early management, we looked at people for their physical abilities, you know, what they could bring to the job, and hiring the right, you know, strong guy to shovel, you know, the coal. Peter Drucker was basically saying, hey, listen, we're seeing a whole different kind of worker that's out there. People aren't being hired necessarily for, you know, their physical abilities anymore. They're being hired for what they know. And the kind of jobs that people are performing isn't so much going to be a physical skill you do with your hands. It's all going to be based upon what you know. I just gave you an example of that with Facebook. You know, they want to bring in somebody for what they know, take that knowledge, and then send them on their way. Well, Drucker was predicting that back in 1966, and now that's the era that we're living in. That's what you guys are all here for. All right, you guys are here to gain knowledge so you can use it in the workplace. Peter Drucker predicted that. And he's basically saying, as we start to use our knowledge is how we're going to compete for jobs and compete in the workplace. All right? And because the knowledge worker concept, he said it knows no geography. You don't necessarily have to be near your workplace to be able to share your knowledge. You can share your knowledge across the world. I mean, you could be sitting on a beach in Tahiti and, be sharing your knowledge with, your company that's producing things in New York City. So that's one of the crazy things that he predicted back in 1966. And here we are now, And it's even interesting is that whole concept of, knowledge workers don't know geography. It wasn't until really COVID that people started recognizing, hey, people can work from home. People can work from anywhere because of the internet. The internet didn't exist in 1966, and Peter Drucker predicted that. So here we are living in the era of knowledge. We're using our knowledge to help us compete for jobs. So that's what you guys are here for. All right, so I just want to close off by sharing one last thing with you guys. So this is basically, we're going to talk in this course about 20th and 21st century management. I alluded to it a little bit last week as well. So the 20th century style of management is the old school style of management. That's your traditional bureaucracy, hierarchical pyramid. Your frontline manager at the bottom. You work your way up to middle management, and then your CEO sits at the top of the organization. That traditional 20th century style of management is basically very finite. It was all about saying, we have goods, we have services, we deliver them to people. We deliver them to people. And that's what it really was about. The organization as a machine, just churning out goods and services, all right? And people were machines. There were cogs in the machine to help that whole big thing going, to get the Industrial Revolution up and kind of get mass production out to society. But what we're seeing now, guys, is this shift to 21st century management, okay? Keep in mind we have the inverted pyramid now. Customers are now at the top of the pyramid. We talked about that last week. And then the customer demands are flowing down. All right. And the CEOs are just supporting the workers who are trying to satisfy or delight the customers. All right. Because customers, if they're not happy, if their needs aren't being satisfied, they're going to go somewhere else. You guys are all customers. You know that. If you don't like who's selling your stock, you guys have options. You can go somewhere else. It wasn't necessarily that way in the 20th century. So I just want to share this kind of closing quote with you guys for the week. This is by Stephen Denning. He's another management theorist. I'm not going to make you know him for a quiz, though. But he gave a really good quote, and I wanted to kind of share it with you guys. I'm going to close us out. He said, "The world changed. In a stable world like that of the 1950s and 60s with strong demand, established firms in control of the marketplace could get away with viewing customers as something to be manipulated, rather than something to be valued. Today, that world is gone. There has been a fundamental shift in the balance of power between the sellers and the buyers. Now, unless a firm is delighting the customer and providing a continuous stream, ongoing, not just one product and leave it, a continuous stream of new value added and ensuring enhanced customer outcomes, the customer can and will go somewhere else." So that's what 21st century management is, guys. It's all about how can we delight our customers. This is a complete shift from the way the 20th century management was founded. So it'll be exciting to see where management goes in your career, but that's where we're at now. It's infinite. Delighting our customers, not just about delivering goods and services. So when you think about management, I want you to think about how can we delight our customers? How can we take care of our people so that they can delight our customers? That's really what management is about moving into the 21st century. So thank you guys so much for your attention. I look forward to seeing you guys in our Zoom this week. Have a good week.